There are still two countries in our world from where the white man mines away precious gold and diamonds like a thief, where the natives are reduced to cheap labor. Where horrifying indignities are perpetrated upon a proud black race every day and every hour. For the white colonizer, it is not just a matter of trade based on human decency. The crux of the problem is that he has invested billions of dollars in these rich countries, the surplus value of which he wants to extract to the last possible extent. Had it been possible like in the olden days, the white man would have pierced holes on the lips of those native Africans and put locks on them. Now that the people of South Africa and Namibia have found the keys to their locks, the white man panics. In his losing battle for an unjust cause, the white colonizer in Pretoria finds himself being isolated by every other nation in the world, except a few of those who share his color and, of course, his profits. The role of the US is one thing, but what worries most of us is the tacit support given to the Botha regime by Britain, which talks of democracy and human rights at home, and which is part of our commonwealth. Awkward questions are being asked today. Whose wealth was common anyway? The way in which South Africa imposes and institutionalizes violence on the people of that land is through the policy of apartheid. A representative of the African National Congress says it better.
Well, the history of apartheid is as old as white domination and colonialism has been prevalent on the African subcontinent. Ever since 1652, when the first whites landed in South Africa, one could say that the system of apartheid was introduced because it is an offshoot of colonialism and colonial domination. But in its present and most vicious form, apartheid was formally institutionalized in 1910, but in its most vicious form in 1948, when the ruling Nationalist Party assumed power. So from 1948 until now, we have the system known as apartheid in South Africa, and which, as you know, is a system of human administration in which a small white minority maintains power by force and violence and continues the brutal subjugation of the vast majority of black South Africans for the benefit of a few white South Africans.
I welcome you all to New Delhi. We are especially glad to greet our
India
new members
is playing a pioneering and catalytic role in the liberation of the people of South Africa and Namibia.
Commonwealth, as it now is the product of decolonization. It cannot ignore the struggle and suffering of our sisters and brothers in Namibia, the last major bastion of colonialism. I am sure this meeting would wish to give to Namibia the central place that Zimbabwe was accorded in Lusaka. That summit was decisive in laying the basis for the transition to Zimbabwe's independence. So let us hope the New Delhi conference will be for Namibia.
When it comes to the violation of human rights of our black brethren, we stand shoulder to shoulder with them and forget whatever differences we have amongst ourselves. It is in this light that the setting up of the India chapter of Parliamentarians' Action for Removal of Apartheid becomes vitally important. Para is a breakthrough because it shows the way for the rest of the parliamentarians all over the world about what they are capable of doing vis-a-vis the South African and Namibian issues. The two-day seminar held recently at Vigyan Bhavan, New Delhi, was an all-party event and was attended by parliamentarians and legislators from all over the country.
Very hearty welcome to all of you. I'm sure the opinions expressed and resolutions passed in this two-day seminar would reinforce the action contemplated against apartheid by the world community and parliamentarians. The parliamentarians are the trustees of the people. They represent the aspirations and the future of communities.
The United Nations Declaration of Human Rights stands violated every day and every hour. It has been India's privilege to join the struggle against the racist oppression and apartheid in South Africa. The first mass movement against racism in South Africa, as you all know, was led by Mahatma Gandhi during his stay in that country between 1893 and 1914. The humiliations and indignation to which the people of Indian origin were subjected to in South Africa provided Mahatma Gandhi with this spark and moral identity.
I certainly feel sometimes aghast in this 20th century and nearing our march onward to 21st century. People just distinguish between man and man. What sort of people we are? Is this the expansion of human mind or human soul? The distances might have shrunken, but the man has shrunk in itself, in its soul, in his shell. We must expand. What we see here daily, what we see in the other world here, you see, terrorism, difference between man and man on caste, creed or religion. What has this world come to? You have to rise against this. It is therefore we have called this meeting. Therefore we are having this seminar. We have to create a momentum. This is going to be a snowball. It must gather momentum. Just take everything away before it, which puts obstacles in the way of progress of man, about the emancipation of man.
The EPG report has said that Nelson Mandela and other leaders of the African National Congress are nationalists, interested in ensuring the survival of their country as one independent, and here I quote the report, democratic and multiracial entity. Pretoria refuses to enter into a dialogue with the leaders of the black majority of South Africa on the ground that they are interested only in a complete transfer of power.
The way each of us experiences South Africa may or may not have relevance to the South African question per se, but it would certainly reveal our true identities as individual human beings. We salute today the martyrs who have laid down their lives in this struggle for liberty. We salute those who are in the midst of this titanic conflict for their bravery and their untold suffering in a cause so dear to all mankind. Above all, let us salute today that indomitable freedom fighter, Mr. Nelson Mandela.
We are all familiar with the brutal repression that has been going on in South Africa. The Commonwealth group of eminent persons which visited South Africa early this year has observed about the full reality of apartheid that, I quote, as a contrivance of social engineering, it is awesome in its cruelty. It is achieved and sustained only through force, creating human misery and deprivation and blighting the lives of millions, unquote.
India from north to south, from west to east, is one today with you, will be one tomorrow with you, and will be one with you till you get your liberation and your freedom. Really, this is the message from this seminar. This seminar also proves that not only our government, not only our leadership, but our people who represent people, our rank and file, they are represented here by this seminar.
So now, Mr. Chairman, everybody has said, and quite correctly, the struggle in South Africa and Namibia has reached a very crucial stage, both from the point of view of the freedom fighters who have decided that if necessary, they are prepared to face a bloodbath. Nobody wants a bloodbath. If it can be avoided, so much the better. But they are prepared to face a bloodbath if necessary in order to win their freedom. We were the first big country to win our independence from colonialism. That struggle and that victory will not be complete until we are able to see our South African brothers also enjoying independence. It is part of that struggle.
We all know who are the powers behind South Africa. It is this tacit support given by the Western powers, particularly the United States of America, the Britain, West Germany, and lastly Israel, who have been supporting the racist regime in South Africa. They have been carrying on not only trade with them, they have entered into agreements on nuclear policy also, nuclear arrangements also. And they are purchasing the raw materials from there and supplying arms to South Africa. And unless these are stopped, and unless the South African regime is hit where it hurts most, it cannot change its policy.
And they knew that a change had to come. And that change is going to come, believe me, whether we speak or we don't speak. It is basically those blacks who will be fighting for their cause and who are already dying for that cause. Our Prime Minister took the first initiative. He went to the 3 frontline states and told them that I stand behind you. And not only I, but my 700 million people of India stand behind you for your just struggle to get freedom.
Those who cry hoarse for human rights actively support obnoxious apartheid regime. Those who support a regime which tramples upon all human rights without any scruples have no business to raise the issue of human rights. They support such a dehumanizing system because their investment has to be protected. By the end of 1982, the UK, USA, West Germany, France, in the order, has an investment of 26,500 million sterling pounds in South Africa, while the rest of the world accounted for only 5,000 million. For this reason, we see today the UK and USA vetoing the Security Council resolution calling for economic sanctions against South Africa.
The urban white income in South Africa is 20 times higher than of the blacks. All the blacks had to carry identity cards. Now they carry passbooks. And every year, 250,000 blacks were arrested for violations of just the question of their going to areas where they were not permitted to go to. What is the situation in education? Per capita wise, for every white child, $1,500 is spent. For every black child, it is just over $200. For the whites, it is 7 times more. For every 630 whites, there is 1 doctor. 631. And now this is the urban population. For the blacks, there is 1 doctor for 91,000.
Eminent speakers, yesterday and this morning, have spoken at length about the iniquities of the system of apartheid, about the brutal occupation of Namibia by that racist regime. They have expressed their indignation at the constant defiance of that regime, of the demands of the international community, of the wishes of the people of South Africa and Namibia. Indignation at the persistent crimes of aggression committed by the racist regime against the frontline states. India has always been identified with this struggle. There is no point going over and over it time and again. We will only be able to say thank you to the people of India when we raise high in our capital the flag that will herald in, that will usher in the independence of Namibia. And I want to assure you that we will never betray your commitment, your confidence that you have placed in us.
Reiterating the belief that the policy of racial discrimination pursued by the government of South Africa is a heinous crime against humanity, and that it amounts to a negation of all accepted canons of civilized conduct. Condemns the government of South Africa for its brutal repression and violence against the black majority, and for resisting all demands of elimination of apartheid, and for the establishment of a system of government in South Africa based on democracy, justice, equality, and freedom. Appreciates and endorses the role being played by India under the leadership of Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi for the achievement of these objectives, and urges the government of India to continue this role with renewed vigor, and sends its warm greetings to and expresses its complete solidarity with Nelson Mandela and all other valiant fighters for freedom in South Africa, and demands the immediate and unconditional release of Nelson Mandela and his colleagues.
After the two-day seminar, the parliamentarians submitted their unanimous declaration against apartheid to the Prime Minister, Shri Rajiv Gandhi.
Let me first congratulate you on the setting up of PARA, a Parliamentarians' Action for Removal of Apartheid. Perhaps this is the first such step anywhere in the world. It is the first time that parliamentarians have united in raising their voice against a horror that is being perpetuated in the last corner of the world. There is no doubt in anybody's mind that apartheid must go and that apartheid will go.
होंगे